Okay, so hello and welcome to day 2 of Therma Infrared Residency, where we will hear from project creator Cristian Zaelzer Perez about today's activities and experiments. We are live streaming from Concordia University's fourth space, which is located on unceded Indigenous lands in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. Here at Fourth Space, we collaborate with our university community to activate research projects and initiatives that are in development across the university. We welcome comments and questions, so please feel free to jump in at any point. Over to you, Cristian.
Hey, yeah, there it is. So, hi everyone. I know it's very early and probably you guys are still sleeping or doing interesting things. So, because I don't see too many people connected today, but this is gonna be, which camera, that one? Yeah. Oh, that one, yeah. So, but we are gonna just speak a little bit about what we're gonna do today, and it's open for you to come and play with us. We are gonna be working with something that called the wall, that is based in some discoveries that we have done with Emery Vanderburgh, who is over there. So, no camera for Emery. You can see the reflection there. Say hello, Emery. So I want to share a little bit a presentation with you guys to try to go with the day and understand what we're doing today. So let me see how this go. Yeah, it's not like that. Come back here. Okay, share screen. There you go. Can you see it? Yes, perfect. So there we have. So this project, as you know, if you are following us, is Therma, and the leading artist of this project, Cristian Zaelzer, a neuroscientist and also an artist in different mediums. Emery Vanderburgh is my fantastic collaborator. She's also an artist, and Dimitri Cooper is our artist in residence, we could say. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So, and we are working together here in this residence in Fourth Space to test some materials and some processes over infrared to try to see what we can capture with infrared and study infrared as a new medium for art creation and exploration. So, and today, that doesn't work. Today we are going to go over our second day, which is dedicated to emotional states. And for that, we have developed something with Emery that we call the Rocher Effect, that is try to play a little bit with the temperature of the emotions. I'm going to explain a little bit about this. Of course, all this is speculative, so I'm going to explain why it's speculative and not a method that should be considered as a scientific one per se. So, imagine that you are in the train, that you are just traveling around the street or just seeing people around your life. And a question that at least comes to me very often is like what people is thinking or what is the state of their minds during the everyday. And particularly now today that we are experiencing a lot of stress in the world. We are living the experience of a war, the experience of the economic of the world just going to sort of catastrophe. We are kind of living a pandemic of 2.5 years that took the life of millions of people around the world, and things seems not to be too stable. And if we add to all that our planet just getting warmer for the action of our activities in the planet. So it's kind of normal for us to be wonder what is in our mind and to think, you know, like what happened with each one of us, especially what is our mental state and our mental health, something that we are talking a lot, especially in academia, especially with our students, especially with people that seems to be experiencing more and more stress. And this is going further over the board with social media that doesn't help too much to, you know, to cure people's mental state. I think it's just like almost contraindicated to use social media if you don't feel well. It's not going to really help you. So what happened in our minds? how can we learn a little bit more about ourselves, about things that we don't see, or at least to have it in mind when we are dealing with people, thinking that people maybe is experiencing something that probably we don't know, and in this way have more compassion or understand better. So this is one of the ideas behind what we are exploring in Therma. Using infrared, we want to bring people a little bit to these ideas, to the idea of let's think in what I cannot see and put it in the table just to have consideration for others around us. Now, during our early explorations, one of the things that came to our attention was that many of the things that we were doing when we unfocus the camera and we play with the infrared radiation coming from different bodies, some of them look a lot like Rorschach ink blood spots. And we thought that this was very interesting, particularly because Rocher, the person that developed this method as part of his practice as an artist. He started as an artist, and then he studied science. And he mixed these two worlds, something that we do in our research, mixing science and art, to develop a method that has been used for decades to try to understand the psyche of people and understand better how to help people that may not even notice themselves what is their mind state. What is interesting about the Rocher ink blots is that is the method today that have more publications in academia in relation to understand better things that we don't see, process in our mind. Has been controversy, of course, behind the method, but this controversy has been lifted lately. So it's a very interesting story to follow what happened with the Rocher ink blots. And based in those ideas, in something that was based in science and art, that helped to see mental states that we don't see just with our eyes, we thought that was very appropriate to include it in our exploration of Therma, which tried precisely to open a window in these states or places of phenomena that you don't see every day using infrared. So, and something that's very interesting about Rocher also is that it's very related with a phenomenon called Paridolia. Paridolia, as you can see on the screen, is the tendency to perceive a specific, often meaningful image in a random or ambiguous visual pattern. The scientific explanation for some people is Paridolia, or the human ability to see shapes or make pictures out of randomness. Our brain in this is equipped with a whole full area that process visual information in the cortex that has to do with try to recognize shapes and forms and try to make them fit in patterns of things that we already know. Like, can you see here probably a face in that photography there, even when there is no face? So this phenomenon that our brain experience has high correlation with the phenomenon of the ink blots that you see in the Rocher ink blot test. So we thought that was interesting to put these things together and try to play with them. And we started to do some tests a year ago. So here we have, during the peak of the pandemic and the use of the mask, and we play with the mask, creating spots, just also using our research in different fabrics and materials to try to create these effects from infrared. Now, in this particular case, this is a pretty obvious made effect. This is not that appear right with the breathing, but it was interesting just to play with one of the famous ink blots of the Rocher inks. Now, further, where we were researching more and more infrared, we came with some particular very interesting material, and I want to show you guys a little about this. Now, there you go. So, before to go that, I was telling you at the beginning that this is a speculative approach. When I say that this is a speculative approach, is because we are combining a material with the reflection that happened from infrared over this material, and then that reflection is being captured through an infrared camera, a FLIR E85 camera. Now, the resolution for that camera does not allow us to say, like, I can detect when someone is happy or upset or nervous. We can have certain hints, and there is some correlation between different aspects, like breathing that we can detect with the camera, and temperature in the face, particularly in the side of the eyes. But most of the studies that exist today about using infrared to detect emotions are not totally conclusive. And we think that it still is important to develop more and better the technology and find better approaches, maybe incorporate particular algorithms to correlate different variables to really arrive to the conclusion to say, oh, the person is feeling this or that, or this or that. Maybe a little bit like what Rocher did, right? And the studies that have been happening for decades. So it's still a lot to do. So, and since our approach is a science, our science approach, we are not claiming that this is a way for you to actually see exactly what happened with the emotions of the person, but we are speculating over. And that speculation, we think that is beneficial because can push people to create new ideas and to think differently in this technology, to use it not just in art, but maybe derive in some point to something meaningful in the science too. As it happened, right, with Hernan Rocher, that he was playing with ink blots, which were very well known in the time that in the early 1900s, and then he used this technique to correlate with mental states. So this particular experiment that we are doing here are also speculative approaches. We hope in some point they can bring something else, but for now we are having fun with them and trying to explore where we can go. And this is part of what we are doing today. So here's an example of how things look in that particular material. So what you see here is just a rendering of one particular video that I play in Premiere to create this for sort of kaleidoscopic effect, to create a little bit the same idea of the Rocher in blots, but this is the reflection of Emery in Mylar. So here I have some triangles that I don't know if you guys are seeing actually probably the presentation right now or me in the camera, but if you see me in the camera, I'm holding a little triangle of this fantastic material. We really, really like it. So Mylar, one of the properties that has is that reflect around 98% the heat. So it's not just a good material to reflect visible spectra, so the light that we see with our eyes, but also can reflect temperature. And it's used usually in agriculture to keep crops from get overheated or to keep the heat from greenhouses. Now, what is very cool is that as you see in the presentation, right, in the video right now, you can reflect pretty good what happened with a person. And what is interesting about the material also is that it's very malleable, so you can actually, cut it, shape it, and play with it. And something that we are working in the later weeks, and we are today working too, is in the creation of a wall to reflect a little bit of that properties. So I'm going to show you here. This is how our wall of Mylar look like. I'm going to show you some of the triangles assembled that we have. So we're still playing and trying to understand better how to glue this material. It has been a quite challenge to try to glue it together because it has very, very low resistance to glue, so the glues just don't hold together. But we think that we found a way to do it. So as you see here, the triangles create the possibility for create these 3D shapes, which are really, really cool. And as you see in the infrared, they create very interesting effects. So we want to create a wall with this that we can manipulate and play with that. And a little bit depending on the emotional state that people will tell us that they're experiencing in the moment. So that's what we are going to play today here in 4Space with our team. So if you want to come and play with us, jump on board. We will be hanging some of Mylar sheet also and using the infrared camera today. So I think that's, let me see. Yeah, so finally I just want to thanks again to our funding and support, so Canada Council for the Arts, Charles Book Lab, who make possible for us to use the infrared camera, for space, of course, for allowing us to use in the space, and Concordia University. So thank you so much, and hope to see you here, guys, today. Any question, if any? Okay.